And hello. Welcome to the Absolute Football Podcast. It's another week of football, another week of podcasting, another Tuesday where there's so much football going on. So it may well change our show as it happens. But this is how we love to live. We love to live life on the fly. So talking of fly people, who else could I get here for a wonderful Tuesday evening chat about football? We have the queen of the underscores next to us. It is Rebecca. Rebecca, how are you? How has your week been so far?
I'm very good, thank you. Still recovering from Bromley away, as I've just mentioned to you two. I don't think I've ever experienced an away match like it, but yeah, very well. Excited to be back on, not freezing at Aki against Fleetwood like last Tuesday, where I couldn't type proper either. But yeah, quite excited. And I've also got a whole section planned out for Scottish Prem, even if you both aren't happy.
There's been lots of preparation for these notes that Rebecca has been saying. We have be prepared for the greatest Scottish Premier League Premiership coverage that you've ever seen at the end of this. We're leaving it to the end, like the final act of a exciting theatre production. Rebecca is ready.
She's ready. Best for last.
Exactly. Ready and waiting for it. And talking of the best but never last, the man who we've missed, it's lovely to have him back. Grimmy, how are you doing, sir?
Yeah, all right. It's been a little while, so looking forward to getting back into the swing of things and seeing what mayhem we can cause on a Tuesday night, as per.
We cause mayhem. That's what we do. We need a saying, because we've got a team chaos and a rowdy rabble. I think mayhem, something to do with mayhem, I think would be a nice trio to wrap things off for the entirety of the pod. And say hello as well to Sean, who's in the chat, who's doing well. Sorry, I'm not much of yourself yet. I know Sean's got some personal family stuff going on, so I hope everything is okay with you and your family. Sean, take care of yourself. And we're going to be here chatting about the Premier League. I have got Real Madrid versus Arsenal on here, where Mbappe just missed a huge chance. Last week we did our first live watch along, which was exciting. A bit difficult to talk about the Premier League because there hadn't been any. So we thought, let's talk about the stuff that's live. But we've been back with the Premier League. Lots of stuff has happened. And where are we going to start? Well, we're going to start with the fact that 20 has become 19 officially, because Southampton have finally, I say finally, I mean, it's the earliest relegation that we've ever had in the Premier League, so not finally, really. But Rebecca, we'll start with you first. Southampton are down, 7 matches to go. It's not gone very well for them, has it? I think.
No, it's not. I just feel as though them coming back into the Prem, they just didn't have the team that they needed to be able to compete where they needed to be. I mean, Europe, like at the minute, we're always seeing that with the yo-yo teams with the Championship, because it's same up, same down quite a lot of the time. But it just seems to have been hell of a season for them. As I say, I can't say much because I think they did beat us, but that's in the past. That was under Dyche, so that's fine. But yeah, no, it's been a very difficult period for them, and I think back in the Championship for them could be where they need to be to rebuild and see if they're straight back up next season.
Does, yeah. I mean, so as you said, they did get a win over Everton. Do you call it pre-Dyche now? It can be like a new era. It's like BC and AD, isn't it? It's like pre-Dyche era.
Yeah, during Dyche and after Dyche.
Yeah, pre-Dyche and after, and new Moyes, the new Moyes era. But yeah, Southampton, it's been pretty sad and pathetic this season. Obviously, for me, I'm a local down here, and it's not been a happy hunting ground in terms of what they're witnessing. I think that's the worst thing I think they found, is that it's just awful to watch, particularly under Juric. At least kind of under Martin, it was errors, but there was kind of a bit of football going on. I think it's just been, they're not even, I think they were screaming the other week about putting a striker on the pitch. There's just no attacking kind of intent, and it's just they're just going there knowing they're going to get beat and rolled over. So it's been coming for quite a while. Some more people coming to the chat as well. Graham's joining us. He's trying to remain strike-free this week. Yeah, Graham was on strikes because he keeps telling us that Rochdale are losing games, which never goes down well in the general consensus of the pod. So we try to avoid that. Leicester not going to be far behind. We will be getting to Leicester, don't you worry. And hello to Heather as well. Hello. She's probably not too disappointed that Southampton have been relegated from the Bournemouth perspective. But I was looking at it, and They actually had a net spend of 80 million euros, because I used the transfermarket.com website, so they love a bit of euros on there. 80 million pounds net spend. They had quite a budget from the season before, because they, I think they sold a lot of players when they last came down. Grimmy, 2 managers sacked in the same season. Never really a recipe for success.
No, I mean, I can't remember any team in the Premier League era or any team in Europe when they've had 2 or 3 managers and they've had a good season. You generally don't get sacked if you're having a good time of things. So, yeah, I mean, I know we've spoke about Southampton a bunch of times, and particularly when it was the Russell Martin era, if you want to call it that. But like, they even said they were a step ahead of the plan by getting promoted so soon, and it kind of felt like, well, if you a step ahead of the plan, you stick with the guy who's made the plan be successful so far. And to be fair, I think they were on to a hiding to nothing throughout the entirety of the season, and I don't think whoever came in, I think even if Pep Guardiola or Jurgen Klopp came in, there was no chance Southampton was staying up with that squad. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they do next season, because if they keep the majority of the squad, they should be fine, but they'll still need a couple of players, I think, just to sort of rebound and get a bit more energy back into the team after the battering they've taken this year.
It's going to take a lot, isn't it? And Juric was a funny appointment. His previous management was at Roma, and he actually lasted longer at Southampton than he did at Roma. He had 12 games, 12 games at Roma. He made 16 for Southampton. So, improvement. 108 days his tenure. They obviously had Russell Martin at the start of the season and didn't. They were going to stick with him. They were going to go with that style, and then I think panicked, to be fair, because they were making so many errors and kind of they were getting picked apart as well on analysis from pundits, from everybody. The points weren't there, so the inevitable happened. But it kind of rang true a little bit. I went back to their last Premier League campaign. So this is now, since they've been under the ownership of Sports Republic, they had 2 manager changes in that season as well. That was when they started that season with Ralph Hasenhüttl. He went in November. There was lots of clamouring at that time to sort of go, and it was for him to go. And it was kind of actually, in hindsight, that was a pretty poor decision. Nathan Jones came in, if we remember, in February. That didn't go very well. That didn't last very long. And then they had Ruben Selles, who temporarily did it caretaker to the end of the season. And actually now he's gone on, and I think did a really good job at Reading, and is doing a very good job at Hull so far as well. So it's 2 for those. So it's the second time they've done this. They obviously didn't prepare very well to go back up again. Do you worry for them? I'll come to you, do you worry for them, Grimmy, that obviously the Luton scenario is one where you look at them struggling going back down? Or do you think that squad's well-built championship players?
Yeah, I think it's different with Luton because Luton needed to replace players who left. Like you had likes of, Barkley, who didn't, who wasn't necessarily doing that well, and
they lost a lot of defenders, didn't they, as well? They
lost like a lot of the back line as well, and I think you'll see a lot of the Southampton players stay. I don't think there's going to be many teams coming for them, especially not in the Premier League with the way they've performed, which maybe being harsh on them, I don't know, but I think that obviously they've got some youngsters, which I know United are looking at, but obviously other the top 10, 15 teams will be looking at as well. But I think the backbone's there of the squad. And I think Southampton will probably have the finances to reinvest if they needed to, whilst Luton probably didn't necessarily have as much or won't have as much due to the size of the club more than anything else. So, yeah, I think Southampton should be fine, unless they really make a horrifically bad appointment for the next guy. And then they start the season terribly. But I just think the infrastructure is there for them not to do that, really. So, yeah.
Yeah, and they've got a few players. I think Armstrong went out on loan. He's a very good kind of championship striker. They've got a few that they'll bring back in. Going back to the chat, so the Headers getting digs in. At least they get their real rivalry back, Saints versus Portsmouth next season. Evening to Russ as well. Thanks for joining us. But Heather is sorry that relegation Ramsdale. I know he's it's not. He's getting a few on his resume, but he was the one good signing they made, and probably saved them from going down earlier. In all honesty, and saved their embarrasses on a few situations. Be interesting where he goes, because in my mind, and this was when Leeds were top of the Championship and looking pretty good. I mean, I think last I saw they were winning tonight, but it's been a bit sketchy recently. So I thought him to Leeds or something like that would make sense, because their goalkeeper's very error prone. I think it's fair to be said. So they'll be in the market for a keeper. You'd imagine he will stay in the Premiership. Graham saying Ramsdale and relegation go hand in hand, and Heather broke his heart. I saw him crying when the Cherries got relegated. So it is very, very sad. Russ asks, says Ramsdale's still good enough for Arsenal. Spenny fan Chris joins us as well. He's joined us from Curzon Ashton versus Spennymoor. So we've got the Champions League all the way down to the joys of the lower leagues going on tonight as well. And Graham says this, Rebecca, what do you think? Obviously, you're part of the lower league crew as well. So Danny Roll, manager at Sexton, he's a name that's been mentioned quite a lot in my office. They're quite fans of this young gentleman. Sheffield Wednesday having a few kind of off-field financial issues. He's done quite well with them. Do you think that's a number one candidate for Southampton?
I feel like it could be a good one, but I don't know how well he'd do if they were to get promoted into the Premier League. I think that'd be a whole new thing for him to try and tackle. But I do feel as though, like what we've seen him do with Chef Wednesday, isn't it? Like what we've seen him do with them is quite impressive for what's been going on in the background. So I do feel as though if he was to go, I think he could prevent the double relegation which Southampton could be threatened with, because I feel as though that could happen depending on what they're able to do with the rebuild and trying to who they end up losing and getting in. So it will be an interesting one, but I do think he will be a good one to try and get them back into the Prem.
He's a very good manager, and I think things are going to be difficult. I think at Wednesday, they're going to be struggling to do much transfer window, etc. So certainly one that's on the name. The other game, there was a name on the list I saw as well, was Liam Mousinho as well. He's been doing quite well in France since he left kind of Hull. He's another name that's kind of been linked, so it might be interesting what happens then. Obviously, they now have time to prepare for next season, because the only thing they're gunning for is this. They need to get 2 more points to not have the worst record ever. And I think it's been a pretty rough season for Derby fans, but where they're at now, a couple of months on, they're suddenly out of the relegation zone. New manager who looks good, and actually somebody might take their worst ever Premier League record. So it might not turn into too bad for Derby. Grimmy, are they going to find these 2 points, or is this as good as it gets? Because they did have Palace, wasn't it? Palace, they had a draw, looked like they might get a win. Can they find something? 7 games to go.
They do have us in that 7 matches, just to let you know.
Yeah, you've got David Moyes though.
This is not.
So you've got to draw against Everton, is basically what Rebecca's saying.
It's the last match of the season.
I mean, if they draw 2 games, they've beaten it, haven't they? So yeah, I mean, 7 games is plenty of opportunity just to scrape a couple of 0-0s out, I guess. But in terms of winning a game and just beating it straight out of 1 game, I can't see them winning out of 7 games. Which is mad to say that about any Premier League team, but yeah, they have been atrocious this year. I honestly could see them equaling it and just not beating it. Like, they managed to nab a point and not be totally the worst, just joint worst.
Exactly, which then gives you an out on it. If you're joint worst, then you can kind of
you could look at someone else and be like, oh well, at least we're as bad as you.
Yeah. These together we were something. Would be sad for them. One name, say Heather mentions though, Tyler Dibling might be one that people want.
Yeah,
I think the problem seems to be that they put a huge transfer fee down on him. I think I can't remember what the figure was, but it was insane for someone that kind of young and whatever. So that might be difficult for somebody to do that. But he's certainly a talented young player. That will certainly have a future, I think, in the Premier League. And an interesting question coming in from Russ. We'll go to the other 2 relegation sides shortly, because they both had fantastic weekends as well. It really was kind of the weekend that shows the difference between the relegated sides and kind of everybody else. But Russ says, who's the most well-equipped team to bounce straight back up? He would say Ipswich. What do you think?
I'd agree with that. Based on, I think Leicester are so poor, and yes, they had a decent spring back season with Maresca, but I can't see them. Well, they're going to have financial issues as well with their situation at the moment, so I can't really see them being able to invest. And Vardy's probably leaving, so their talisman's kind of out the door. Is Harry Winks a good enough player to get you promoted from the Championship again? I would argue not. I just think Ipswich will probably keep the majority of that squad, and Kieran Maguire knows what he's doing, and he's been great for them and will probably continue that trend. Whether it's a straight automatic promotion, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that they will be there or thereabouts in the playoffs. Ipswich, I do think they will be.
Yeah, it's a similar squad, isn't it, to what they had when they did last week. And Bucky's here. Super Schmodix, back from injury, will storm the Championship again from a Blackburn fan. Yeah, Ipswich, you would think. Heather's still holding out hope, though, that they might overtake Wolves with Cunha out. I think I saw a stat, actually, their record since he's been out. I think they've won 3 in the trot since he's been out suspended, so it's worked kind of okay for them. And they beat Ipswich, obviously, which we will come to. We'll come to at the weekend. But yeah, it's not good. Southampton are well and truly down. We'll come to those next. We'll come to Ipswich, and this surprised me actually, because I was looking to try and see, like, when the 3 have gone down, is it they weren't able to do much transfer business? You would expect them to be near the bottom of the table for net spend, but Ipswich were the second highest in the Premier League for net spend. Brought in an awful lot of players, some big fees. 150 million euros actually that they had net spend, which was surprising when I looked at it, because you wouldn't have said that the sort of squad's kind of there. I think everybody knew it would kind of be difficult for Ipswich, but I think coming into that, they were like last season, everyone loved a bit of Luton, didn't they? They become the neutrals' favourite in there. We'll move on to that game this weekend, Grimmy. Ipswich 1, the Wolves 2. Cunha's been out, but Wolves have actually been slowly reasonably impressive recently. Jorgen Strand-Larsen's 4 goals in 3 games. Nailing Finn for Ipswich, was this kind of just the exclamation point to sort of show this is the difference between the gap of the bottom 3 and everybody else?
Well, that match epitomised the story of Ipswich's season of getting a lead and getting themselves into the game and not being able to hold on to it. I think there was a stat I heard on the radio the other day. It was like they got 27. They lost 27 points from being in the lead, which is like the most in the season. And if you think half of those points, they're in the fight. They're still in the fight to stay up, or are comfortably in or about those positions. But yeah, I mean, all those points, you're mid-table and you're comfortable and you're not worrying about it, and you're looking down at Everton in 15th thinking, we're better than you. Obviously not at this moment in time, but yeah, it's a strange one because, again, going forward, they've been able to nick a few goals here or there, but then they've just not been able to hold on to it. That's been their downfall, not being able to hold on to leads. And yeah, Wolves have capitalised on that and pretty much sealed the fate with that win.
I have indeed. Vitor Pereira's quietly done a good job, actually, sort of coming in, not really the kind of profile of manager I think people knew too much about. Everyone's kind of let him get on with it as well. They've not really received a lot of talk, Wolves, in sort of recent weeks, I think, because everybody kind of realised that the bottom 3 was sadly going to be the bottom 3. I think Andre João Gomez have been playing really well for Wolves. I think they're really, really sort of nice couple of players in there. Obviously, Cunha gets all the headlines, and for a lot of the time for good reasons, for fantastic goals, but the odd, should we say, the odd disciplinary issue we've had as well this season, which is a problem. Rebecca, I'm guessing we think, and Cunha's, I think, made it clear he wants out in the summer. Do you think there's a lot of clubs in the Premier League that are going to be vying for him? I know United have been mentioned, but 1 or 2 others. You think Premier League for him?
Really don't know, because I think a lot of teams will have seen how he's been this season, and you're not going to focus on behaviour, but that could be the make or break for quite a few teams, because if you're to put that much money into a player and then all of a sudden he's doing this every other week and getting suspended, you just can't rely on him. He is a very talented player, don't get me wrong, and he has been a standout for Wolves this season, but the main thing that has let him down is the disciplinary aspect. So I think it will be interesting to see if any clubs do take that risk, but then it could also be a complete switch in him as a player in terms of he's like this because he doesn't want to be at Wolves. So unless that is why he's acting like that, so if he goes like a United, he could turn completely different and he never gets a yellow or red card.
It could be. Yeah, people behave very well at United, don't they, Grimmy? We never have any disciplinary issues with any players. You know,
I have
who
no
go
idea what you're
sulking,
referring
don't
to,
want to
Sam.
play. I can't remember any of that happening in the last few seasons at all. So, yeah, it would be a match made in heaven. I've no doubt about it. But no, it's a fair point. Yeah, you can't afford somebody to be out that many games if you're paying that kind of fee for them. But it has gone quite nicely for Wolves. But the game itself, one thing I did enjoy was there was a crazy moment where the goalkeeper had to rush back and palm it off his line from a back pass. It was kind of a mix-up, wasn't it? And he had to come back. And it resulted in an indirect free kick in a penalty box, which we don't see enough of. I love that. A good old, 6 yards indirect free kick when you've got everybody lining up on the goal line and then charging as if they're like the front line in a war just to chuck themselves in front of that. There needs more of that. We need more reasons why you can give indirect free. I remember when I was a kid, they used to happen all the time. They used to have at least one a game, but that's the first one. When was the last time you can remember an indirect free kick? There wasn't one at Bromley last week, was there?
No, it was when I went to Dundee and St Johnstone.
Of course it was the Scottish. We can always rely on the Scottish.
Why wouldn't it not be the Scottish Premier League?
It was the St Johnstone keeper picked up a back pass, and then it was the indirect free kick in which Simon Murray didn't score. But it was highly amusing watching an 11-man defence just fill the goal line. But yeah, Scottish Premier is where they are.
It is, and I think it's because if you're with that scenario, can't be one they train or even talk about often. So probably as the person's coming up and they need it touched off, they don't really have a plan because it's such a rarity to happen. You're almost having to look at where the shortest guy is and then trying to sort of aim above his head. That's kind of the plan. But it's always the player that I think it was Sam Morsey blocked it. You're like, oh yeah, cool. It's always going to be the warrior that's out, and he's out 8 yards before the bloke's even kicked it, smashed in front of it. I did love a bit of that. That was very, very enjoyable. But coming on to the third team of what looks like the relegation trio, Leicester City. Fantastic job they did last night. Didn't take long at all against Newcastle to be behind. Funnily enough, yes, I was with a friend yesterday. We're having a bit of dinner, and he's not a football fan at all. And it was on the sort of sports bar telly where we were. And we were talking about the podcast and stuff. Because how do you think this one will go? I was like, Leicester are going to get battered. I said, Leicester are in trouble here. And just as I said that, they scored after 1 minute 30. And I was like, that won't be the only one. That's just the start. So Grimmy, I mean, that was just kind of a man against boys a little bit, wasn't it? City in that sort of first half. They just ripped Leicester open at kind of will. And not good at all for Leicester.
Yeah, I mean, I think the stat I heard on that one was it's like they're the first Premier League team to not score for 8 games in a row, 8 home games in a row, which is just crazy. Even if you're getting battered 5-0, just nick one and just break the duck, you know what I mean, and have some sort of sarcastic applause to celebrate. But yeah, Leicester. I didn't think Leicester would be as bad as they have been. I thought they would be in the relegation battle, don't get me wrong, but to be as bad as they have been, and especially when Rude came in, I thought Rude would be able to get them scoring goals, but yeah, they're just bad all over the place, really, and yeah, they're not fun to watch. Even if they were like a swashbuckling like Blackpool back in the day, who'd give it a go, even if they got battered 4-2 or 4-1 or whatever. At least they gave it a go. Leicester just looked so lifeless, and all the joy sucked out of them, basically.
They do, and you look through the squad, and it's just not the kind of experience isn't there, like the Premier League kind of experience announced within there. I mean, I was critical, I think, of Wout Faes last time they went through to the Premier League. I thought he really struggled defensively, and he's just kind of example of a few sort of players they've got in there. I mean, like we said, with all respect, they've still got Jamie Vardy. Jamie Vardy shouldn't really be having to lead the line as often as he is for them to kind of give them an outlet, particularly with, they're another one. They spend 41 million euros, so they put a few pennies in as well. And this is, again, the second time they've come up as well. So, and again, probably because this always happens, Leicester will be fighting at the Championship top end next season. You can kind of see it. But it is, it's been poor to not score in 8 games at home, as you said. Like, it's just, there's teams that come up and entertain and have a go. And I think, because we watch the Premier League week in, year in, year out, we like those teams to come in to add that bit of spice. And I get that sometimes it is a bit suicidal. And I think Norwich did it. We saw the way that Leeds tried it kind of in the past. And it hasn't really been since that season where, was it Forest, Bournemouth and Fulham, they all come up together? Was it those trio or 3 of them?
I think it was,
Yeah, it's been a couple of difficult seasons for the most. So I guess the thing is, if you're now a promoted side about to come into the Premier League, what's the strategy? What do you think is the best way to kind of go about it? Because the last couple of seasons tell you you're in trouble.
It's a difficult one to answer because I think we all know the gap between the Premier League mainstays and the Championship is getting bigger by the year. And unless there's some major investment into a team that can bridge that gap, it's not going to close anytime soon. And I don't know what the answer is to fix that. I think you need to be able to buy players who clearly have some form of Premier League experience, but if they're a good enough quality, those clubs aren't going to be letting them go. It's like us letting go of Dan James. He's a good Championship winger, but he's not going to probably be that great in the Premier League unless he's got the right system and tactic. And Leeds are looking like they're going to probably or potentially fall into the playoffs. So who even knows if they're going to be in with a shout of getting promoted automatically by the end of the year, because the way they're falling back is quite remarkable. But there is no obvious answer. I think you just need to have the right combination of manager, and you need to get the investment spot on. Like we saw with Forest when they came up and they basically had to buy themselves an entirely new squad. Without the right investment and the right players coming in, you've got no chance, really. I think Ipswich kind of made the right moves here or there, but it wasn't 100% right, because I think if it was 100% right, they'd probably be in with a fighting chance towards the last couple of games, really. But yeah, there is no easy answer to that. You just need to, I think the obvious answer is right manager, right investment, and some of the mainstays not being at their 100% best. I thought for a while it was going to be Everton, and I think Rebecca probably thought for a while it was going to be Everton. But they made the right call and got rid of Deitch, and Moises settled the ship, and I think that's what a lot of Premier League teams will do.
I think this is the challenge. It's going to see that these are the 3 worst promoted teams collectively. Doesn't see it getting better. The gap between Premier League and Championship getting massive. I mean, the thing is, if you look at who can they pick off, and you think, who can they pick off in that box? Everybody, even Wolves, have had periods of the season where they've been in good form, and that's the difference, is they have really good runs. Like, these teams might put a game or two together that we've seen, but even teams that were struggling early on in the season, like Palace are flying now. They've been fantastic since then, And then you've got teams that have sort of dropped down into there in terms of West Ham, United, Tottenham and such, where, they're massively underachieving and they're still miles away from where the relegation guys are. And then Everton was, say, struggling early on, but still weren't in there. And then, say, suddenly Dyche went, Moyes came in, completely different outlook. And so you'd imagine new stadium next season, things look different. So they're another one you're now saying. Rebecca will be hoping she won't have to mention the R word next season. And say comment coming in, so it's never going to be Everton's squad was held back by Dyche. Moyes has shown what a poor manager he is, giving Dyche, getting stuck in on Dyche. But I think, as you said, Grimmy, you look at it again next season, you look at the 3 at the minute, we don't know who's going to go up via the playoffs, but we know it's 2 of the 3 from Burnley, Sheffield United and Leeds. And looking at it tonight, Sheffield United are losing and Leeds are winning. So that might flip that back around again, and Burnley are drawing. So that really is week to week. But you look at those 3 sides and you go, well, Burnley have got this fantastic defensive record, but it won't that won't work in the Premier League. The teams are too good going forward. They'll break that down. We've seen that before. If you just come with a really good sort of defensive plan, they're scoring more in recent weeks, but they're going to have to adapt a bit. Not as much as Company adapted last time they went up, I think. I think we're going to see more of a pragmatic Burnley if they come up. We've kind of seen Sheffield United the last few times. They've struggled to put anything together. Last time they couldn't buy anybody. I think they were under an embargo. That was difficult. So they may have something they could do this time. I don't know. And Leeds are probably the best going forward, but they're very leaky and susceptible, as we've seen, to sort of throwing things away as well. So that's not the kind of blueprints that you can say that next season there's any of them you can hang your hat on to say they're going to do it, unless massive investment, something different, something changes, which could kind of happen. So we shall certainly see. The question before we move away from relegation is about Ruud. Ruud, we love a bit of Ruud. Well, certainly Grimmy and I love a bit of Ruud Van Nistelrooy. Does he go before the end of the season when relegation is officially confirmed, or at the end of the season? Would it be rude to leave early, Grimmy?
For the sake of Leicester fans, probably not. It's been abysmal. There's no other way to put it for him. I know when he first got hired, me and you were, I think it was probably the podcast straight after, or the week after, we were fingers crossed it was going to go well for him. And unfortunately, it's been the complete opposite. And I think for Leicester, it's probably... I think I read somewhere that there was financial implications if he went, like it was going to be pretty pricey. So that might have some bearing on it. But if I'm Leicester, regardless if they get rid of him now or at the end of the season, I don't think it's going to make a major difference. If you're going to get the next manager in, it's probably going to be in the off season when you're looking to try and get things in a row. But yeah, I mean, getting rid of him now, it's probably going to be a coach that comes in and does an interim job for 7 games. And then, I mean, it's not going to make a difference whether he goes now at the end of the season. But for the sake of Ruud and everyone else, probably just get rid of him now and try and find the right guy between now and the end of the season to try and make a jump start on everybody else who might be looking for managers, I guess. But yeah, I don't know who that is, or even recommend Steve Cooper, maybe bring him back after getting rid of him at the start of the season.
I can imagine that.
Or give it Deitch, give it Deitch, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, it's just Leicester are a head scratcher because they don't seem to make the right decisions. I mean, why get rid of Cooper when he was getting results? That's kind of, I just didn't get it. I just didn't get it in the first place.
I think, yeah, they didn't click. That the whole Forest thing, I think, was always the problem with Cooper. That was always the thing. But you go back to last season and you think, they had to completely change because they had Maresca. They came up with Maresca and suddenly they've come up to the Premier League and they've got to change manager and do something different. So there's no kind of continuity there for them. And then so Ruud's got a lot of, his experiences mainly from the Dutch league. He'd been sat on the sidelines at Old Trafford, watching the shambles that we were performing week in, week out. And then he took charge of a couple of games and suddenly, he's not used to this end of the Premier League and kind of how that kind of works and scrapping from week to week. And they just haven't scrapped. I think that's the reality. Yeah. Just hasn't happened. So, yeah, interesting one because I think, another one. I think he was linked to I remember when he was at United, I'm sure he was linked to AC Milan and Roma and such at the same time, wasn't he? He probably would have much rather taken those in hindsight, I would have thought. But Rebecca, what do you think? Say Van Nistelrooy, do you think he'll go at the end of the season or do you think before?
I think it'll be the end of the season. I think the fate of Leicester is already sealed where you can put the apologies to any Leicester fans, you can put the I next to their name already. You can't see a miraculous run come in and somehow they achieve safety. If that does happen, then fair play, but can't see it. So I think they might as well just see it out with him. I mean, it's not the greatest time for Leicester. It's not the greatest time for the club and everything, but I feel as though if they were to sack him now, it'd just be like a thing of, well, we're a bit lost now. What do we do? So just see him out until the season. Maybe give him time in the Championship because he could find his feet again with that team in the Championship. You just don't know. But I do feel as though there is set for a reshuffle at Leicester whenever that is to happen.
That's it. And as Grimmy says, you're not going to want to pay his contract really kind of out if you can help it, knowing you're going to get the shortfall of being back in the Championship kind of next year. So yeah, it's a shame for Rouge. It's a shame for Leicester. But some love for Dyche. There's always some love for Dyche somewhere. If you look hard enough, Rebecca, feel for Dyche if some of those draws have been wins. There you go. You never know. And Silk said in the commentary, he said the relegation side / promotion fighting side should be fighting over Gary O'Neill, in my opinion. Don't tell Heather that. Kept a poor Bournemouth side up and a poor Wolves side after numerous sales, and sadly went stale, but he's shown himself to be a decent survival manager who plays okay football. I mean, yeah, there's a number of managers. Yeah, there's a number of managers you forget have kind of been out of work for a little bit, and they kind of come back around and will be looking for something to do. So, Graham says Leicester are a mess off field with finances, so they could actually struggle next year. Yeah, it could be another tricky one. Not quite as it's been when they've gone down in the past. We will see, but yeah, relegation wise, it's pretty much all wrapped up. Sadly, and it's not Everton. It's not Everton, and you don't even have to worry, Rebecca, going into the final stage of the season. It's just it's holiday. It's holiday mode. Just saying goodbye to your stadium. That's what you got to focus on for the end of your season. But we're going to flip something that doesn't make any of us particularly happy, and something that is assured is pretty much the title as well. Sadly, however, this weekend, Fulham went and beat Liverpool 3-2 with a fantastic performance. And it's, I do feel this, Grimmy. You must feel this, and Rebecca probably feels this as well. Why isn't there a challenger? You just feel like the last few weeks there's been some stutters, and you're like, where is everybody? Where's the bloody Man City carving through, or somebody to? There's no one there, is there? It's it's just a saunter to the title.
I wouldn't want it to be City because that'd be 5 in a row, and I couldn't handle that.
I just, yeah. The problem is it's a choice of shockers, isn't it? For us, it's just like, is it City? Is it? I would take Arsenal at this point. Yeah, last season I was backing Arsenal for it, and this season I was open for Arsenal. But
yeah, but then Rebecca had to spoil the party and make a draw on Saturday. So then even if Arsenal got 3 points, it wouldn't even just put it down to single digits. But there you go.
Selfish, very selfish.
We took one for the team. Oh no! I was gonna say we got the draw against Liverpool in the first derby, so we tried with that one. We'll ignore the Wednesday one.
We'll ignore that one. Yeah,
we'll ignore that one. Yeah, that one didn't happen. Didn't count. It was away from home.
No.
I'll let Heather, because Heather's coming back. I knew she'd have something to say on the Gary O'Neill discussion. I mean, we had the same side that first year with Iraola. Gaz just not a good manager yet, I'm afraid. Needs to go to Championship and learn a bit more. Bloody boring to watch as well. There you go. Not a fan. Not a fan.
It's a no from Heather.
It's a no from Heather. No from Heather. So obviously, Alexis McAllister scored early in this game for Liverpool, and I think everybody thought, "Oh, here we go." Liverpool were kind of back on it to tick the boxes. They were a bit shaky in kind of recent games, but then Fulham rallied, and 3 goals in 13 minutes, bang, 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 including Rodrigo Muniz, who was fantastic. And they've gone and held on for a 3-2 victory. Europe's not out the question, is it, Grimmy, for Fulham? Like they are putting a case together.
Yeah, I mean they're a solid. Fulham this year have been one of those teams that they will just remain that mid-table team and be there. And then I've said it before about any team in that sort of spot that if you can put a run together, you might just sneak into Europe. So yeah, I mean Silva's got Fulham playing pretty consistently at the minute. I mean, we found that out the hard way when they knocked us out of the cup, Sam. Let's not remember that too fondly. But yeah, it was just, I mean, Fulham are one of those teams that can turn up on, if they show up on the day, they will get a result against you. So, and they've done that against probably the team that's been running away with most games this season. So yeah, fair play to them.
It was a very, very good win. And I think, Rebecca, you'll like this stat, I think. Alex Iwobi has become the first Nigerian to score 30 or more goals and make more than 30 assists in the Premier League. So there you go. Where did he learn all of those abilities?
At Everton, of course.
Of course.
The joy that I felt seeing Alex Iwobi score against Liverpool was just amazing. Like the fact that he's an ex-Everton player just scoring against Liverpool, it was just added to the fun.
Just doing the business. It's very interesting, I find, at the minute with watching Liverpool fans online, because obviously they're kind of in this like waiting pattern, knowing that the title's coming, but they are getting frustrated with the fact they haven't been great for sort of recent weeks. They're at the cups now, there's nothing kind of to play for on other fronts. They won the League Cup, but Champions League was a disappointment, and they're kind of waiting, and this big explosion's coming because nothing's coming up behind them, and we all know where the inevitability comes from. That they are top, and they are going to win the title. But I think it's a kind of weird feeling they're having, because rather than charging and winning that title, they're just sort of lazily wandering towards the finish line. And also there was mistakes from Van Dijk. There was a couple of really poor ones in the game, which was just completely, obviously, unlike him. And you just wonder whether now it must be very difficult to. I know Slot's trying to sort of build the drum and say, let's win the title, let's do all of this and the rest of it. But it does seem to have dropped off. What do you put that down to, Grimmy? Do you think that's just a case of because there's no one going to challenge him behind, or it's just they've been so phenomenal all season, they were going to be due a dip at some stage?
Yeah, I think it's more the first point you made there. I mean, if you look back at when they won the league during the COVID
one that
season,
didn't happen because it was COVID.
Yeah. I mean, I tried to pretend that didn't happen. They're going to win another one, so I can't even pretend. I can magic one away. I can't magic two away.
Yeah, I don't want them to win the title, but I think another pandemic would be an extreme way of going about it. So.
Yeah. So when you look back on that season, they were so far ahead, like it was already pretty much done by like 20, 25 games in, I think. And then when we returned after sort of that first lockdown, they did have this similar sort of run where they pretty much knew they'd won, and they'd lost a bunch of games they shouldn't have lost. I think it's kind of a bit of, we know we've won the title, we don't need to really worry at this point. If they lost the next two games and Arsenal somehow got themselves together, then maybe they start to sweat a little bit more. But again, it's Liverpool. Don't really see them doing that, even if they are putting the foot off the accelerator a little bit. But I also think there will be probably some percentage of it will be going down to the fact that Van Dijk, Salah, and obviously Trent more or less being confirmed for Real Madrid, it seems
pretty
like.
Much, yeah.
But then Van Dijk and Salah, nothing's happened with them. Van Dijk rumored to be going to PSG, and then there's the Salah-shaped hole you're going to have in that squad if he's gone next season as well. So it could be some stuff going on in the background with players not being extended, and then Slot's the guy trying to beat the drum, like you say, trying to get them going. But it's difficult to motivate players when they've already won the league and the big three are potentially gone next year. It's kind of difficult to get that going again, I guess.
It's weird to think about as well, isn't it? Because I can't imagine this scenario where Liverpool win the title and then you've got Trent, Salah, and Van Dijk don't line up next season. It's crazy. I mean, where you've seen that in the past, because that's almost like people win their first Premier League title, particularly under a new manager, and they want to see that as the start of that dominion, don't they? You're keeping hold of that core of the squad, and Salah and Van Dijk are still at the top of their game, and Trent's still kind of, growing, has got a long way in his career. And while he's made his decision, I think Liverpool fans would say he's probably the preferred of the three to go, because he's maybe more replaceable, not some of his attributes, but they'll work it out differently. You're never going to get someone who can cross a ball like he is, but they're going to fit in a way, aren't they? Where Salah's just star quality, and Van Dijk's the best centre-back we've seen in the Premier League, certainly for the past, 10 years. And you can argue about that whole sort of greatest ever discussion with him. He's that good. It's very difficult. Graham says Premier League so bad this year, Liverpool are winning it playing bad. Is that how you see it, Rebecca? That, that it's just everybody else not being there? City are off pace, but miles. Arsenal aren't there. Do you think it could have been different if there was a team that was coming up behind them, like a City who were winning every week while they're stuttering?
I really don't know. In terms of the Van Dijk thing, one of my friends at uni is a Liverpool fan, and I think Van Dijk is in talks with Liverpool over a contract. It came out on yesterday, that on Sky Sports that there is something
that would make sense. Yeah,
going on
that's
behind the scenes with him potentially staying. But no, I feel as though even if there was someone to challenge Liverpool, I feel as though them not having the challenge has let them slip up. Whereas if they had the challenge, I don't think we'd have seen the mistakes that they have made, and they wouldn't have had, like, just be going through the floor towards the end of the season, like, oh yeah, they can get beat 3-2 off Fulham and they're still 11 points clear. And it's like the case of, I think a lot of fans are saying, like, oh, the world's ending because Mo Salah's not scored in like 4 matches. And it's just one of them where it's like, even with that and with everything that's happened, they're still up there. And I do feel as though they're able to make these mistakes because the pressure's not there. If, like we've said, if Arsenal were miraculously able to get the points to put the pressure back
Talking
on.
of Arsenal, never mind points, Declan Rice has just screamed a 25-yard free kick in at the Emirates against Real Madrid.
Oh, blooming hell, he has, yeah. That's a curler. That is a curler.
It's an absolute peach. Or just wait to see.
Becca would be proud of that. Good lord.
That was a hit and a half.
The spin on that.
Just waiting to see the replay on it. Sorry, Rebecca, we've just chucked in on you. It's like
not really what I talk about Liverpool.
It's like the Dundee derby all over again, isn't it?
Yeah, like when it was Dundee and Celtic. Every time I started speaking, Dundee had scored.
The bend on that's a good 2 yards outside the post. He's bent that round.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big goal. That is a big goal. Big goal. Sorry, Rebecca. Yeah, so Arsenal in the Premier League.
Yeah,
let us all down. Where was that the other week?
I feel as though if they were to get anywhere close to Liverpool, Liverpool would just pick back up, and we'd see the same Liverpool that we've seen in the fact that they went that was their first away loss this season. So we'd go back to the Liverpool that everyone knows and everyone has watched this season, in which I am saying all of this through gritted teeth because I am a bitter blue, but it is what it is. Like, it is a talented side, and yeah.
It is. I think you're right. I think they would have, because the experienced players that they've got in there like that kind of, ticking it off. Yeah, every game, head mentality, siege mentality thing. And it probably has. It's no doubt it's made a difference. So, as Heather says, the gap, sadly, is too big now. And Sean says maybe Muller-Rice could have teach Leicester how to score some goals. Well, I say if you've got a player like that who can take free kicks like that, it doesn't matter who they play for. Not a lot of keepers are stopping that, to be honest. I mean, it's only Thibaut Courtois in the goal against it as well, and he got nowhere near it. So, very, very good goal there for Declan Rice. But we'll move on to a couple of other games before we get to obviously the crescendo that is the Scottish Premier League to come. So stick around with that. Rebecca has, by the way, showed me her notes. Rebecca has some of the neatest handwriting I've ever seen in my life. I was like, it's within the lines. It's like it's insanity. It's insane.
I don't know. Can I see if I can show it? It might not.
Yes,
don't let's not look at my handwriting because mine looks like a 5-year-old child.
I
could literally read that here. If I put my handwriting up, you'd not be able to read mine. I'm telling you now.
It's
just showing up on my Dundee note. Well, no, my Scottish Prem note.
This is why my notes have to be marked as a word, because I've got absolutely no idea if I write it down. I don't even know which team I've written down, let alone what I want to say about them. So, we'll go on then, Rebecca. We'll go Arsenal 1, Everton 1, as we're on the kind of Arsenal train and the Everton train. You managed to get a point against Arsenal, but what I talk afterwards was the penalty. Obviously, how did you see the penalty?
It's not a penalty. I'll take it any day of the week to be able to get a draw, but it's not a penalty. It was a very decent point for us, especially after the defeat to you-know-who on Wednesday. I've said their names too much and I've been a bit too nice, so that's that. We didn't start great at all. Defensive error leading to their goal. I think it was like Idrissa tried to pass it back to Jared and it just fell apart where Trossard just got on the end of it. Well taken goal. Fair play to him, but it was of our own making. It was really frustrating because, like we all know, Wednesday was the end of our really good run that we've been on with Moyes. So we were like, right, let's try and bounce back. But I don't want to be the person to say it. I don't think we should have played Wednesday night and then early kick-off on Saturday. That's my little disagreement with it. And I think we've heard managers say this before, but there was the issue of fatigue for us in that case. But that's that little bit out the way. Iliman and I, having him back has been amazing. Even though we still all kind of think he's injured still because he has the biggest bandages on his leg. So it's just like, please don't get injured again. See him back on the score sheet through a penalty, which it was a gift. It was in front of the Gladys Street end as well, so it was quite a fitting penalty. I do want to know what David Raya were thinking. I don't know if anyone has seen his attempt of trying to save it. He dives before Iliman and Dye kicks the ball. He's already gone, and Iliman and Dye still doing his
all the time.
Didn't he have a couple of strange ones with us, Grimmy, in that FA Cup shootout as well, didn't he?
Beautifully done, I have to say. If you want two complete opposites of how to do a penalty shootout as a goalkeeper, watch him and then watch Bentang. Oh, what's Bendaye? Bendaye?
Oh, Bayindir, yeah.
Bayindir, that's the one.
Yeah.
I can never pronounce his name right. Watch how they both did it. One dives about 5 seconds before a ball's kicked. The other one stands still and waits for it to happen. It's just ridiculous.
Particularly now when you see so many players are able to stutter or stop or pick when they sort of go. You can't, that's the thing in the past where you used to just sort of go, just guess. I know there's a certain element of having to commit, isn't there? But yeah. But there we go. But you should put a penalty scored anyway, Rebecca. A point gained.
Yes.
Another great. And Arsenal, obviously, clearly with one eye on here. Saka, I think, came on, didn't he, in the second half? So this is his first start tonight. So he's obviously massively, massively crucial. Sean says you've got doctor's handwriting, Grimmy. Dr. Grimmy sounds a good.
No one wants me to be the doctor. Oh, that would be a recipe for disaster. And I'm sure my wife, who is a nurse, would tell you the exact same thing.
There were a few more positives that I just want to add about the Everton match. We had Nathan Patterson returning to the starting 11. Dwight McNeil made an appearance from his injury along with Brozier. So we've got them back in the squad and playing a few minutes, which is exciting for us because Dwight has been one of the players that we've missed, and just to have him back is really good. Pickford pulling out the saves that we all know that he can do. It is just a shame that save of the season contender doesn't count because it was offside, but he still had to make the save because of the rule with the flag and all of that. But yeah, it was a decent point. Difficult match on Saturday against Forest, so that'll be interesting to see how we do there, especially with it being away. But I feel as though now that we've been able to just forget about the R word and move on from that, it is now just the big focus on the emotional goodbye to Goodison, which is coming very soon, which it is scary, it is sad, but it's got to happen.
It's drama, and sadness to come. Graham thinks it was a penalty, just enough. He says, I think you take them if they're given, but hate them going against you. There's enough current to warrant it being given. 55-45 he's gone. I like how he's come up with those numbers. So it's obviously it's not 50-50, it's just enough, but it's not 60-40. He's gone with 55-45. So it's very slim in the case of a penalty. I like those. I think they should. I think they should. Referees should have to come out afterwards and what their ratio was in terms of they thought it was a penalty. Well, it was about 53 to 47 for that one. It was a tough one.
Did you also see the fact that the ref blew the whistle too early? So he stopped the match before the actual time was meant to finish, and then he just let us take a free kick. It was either a free kick or a corner. Nothing came of it, and then he blew the full-time whistle again. So the match ended before it should have done.
Makes me laugh with that. It makes me laugh as well. Like this happened in. We'll come on to the Manchester derby briefly because not a lot happened with that. But off the line, again.
I was just about to say. I'd just say Courtois has made a cracking double save in Alabama or whatever his name is. Cleared off the line.
Just
Arsenal
made
battening
an
down the hatches.
unbelievable couple of saves there. The first one's not great, but the final one's something special. Yeah, I mean, so it was in the Manchester derby where that's the other thing that warrants me up is then the fans were kicking off because he blew the whistle while we were attacking. And I'm like, I get it because when you're sort of still attacking and such, you don't want that whistle to go. I was also like, nothing's happened in this game in 96 minutes. Why do we suddenly think? Because it wasn't even if it was like a clear position, we had it and they were still set in their defence. You were like, nothing's going to happen. Referee knows nothing's going to happen. He's seen enough of this. It's not happening. So it's been to the new Everton Stadium. It's fantastic inside. We're very noisy when we get 53,000 Evertonians in there.
It just needs more Everton about it. Like you go in and it feels like an away ground when we went. Like it just doesn't. There's not enough Everton there yet, which I know it's still like in the process of getting more Evertonified, or if that's even a word. I don't know.
Evertonified.
Words on the podcast
Everton,
now.
he's more Evertoned.
Yeah, like there just needs to be badges everywhere and
a toffee shop.
It needs to feel more like home.
Damn.
This is it. It needs anything that links to it. You need maybe if you had like Duncan Ferguson greeting everybody coming in or something, and all the legends of the past,
headbutting everybody as they come in. Yeah,
that's the away fans. As he's more calm these days. He was talking on. I think he was a pundit. He might have even been this weekend. I can't remember. He was a pundit, and he was remarkably calm talking about the penalty. But yeah, on the pitch, my word. He was something else.
He was one of the pundits for the Merseyside derby, and even he was calm enough to sit there and say Tarkowski should have been sent off. And if the big dunk saying that, something is wrong with that challenge.
Something. Actually, of that did make me laugh because I saw Tarkowski's after interview and he was, what was he complaining about? It was the goal, wasn't it? It was offside. I was like, probably not the game to be complaining about the official decision. I was like, just stay stum. Don't be complaining. You shouldn't have even been there for that to happen, to be honest. So just change. Someone should have pulled him back and be like, let's just go. Let's just leave that be. But there we go. A good point for Everton. Arsenal dropped more.
Oh my days! Declan Rice, you've done it again.
He's done it again.
He's pulled it into the top quarter, Sam. Honestly, that's even better than the first one.
He's still standing there about to take it on mine. So I'm gonna try and get a cheeky quick bet on.
Get excited, Sam. Get excited. That's all I'm saying. Sorry.
I'm just.
That was phenomenal.
What's this? Top left, is he going for that? I mean, to hit two free kicks in a game. Oh, Declan. Oh, behave. Get him on those England free kicks next summer.
Yes, that's literally what I've just bought in my head as well.
That's a perler. That's better than the first one. That's to hit that corner with that pace.
Yeah.
Good Lord. Blimey. Arsenal 2, Real Madrid 0, and they've got to go to Bernabeu next week, but...
Oh, it's going to be like 5-0 Real Madrid next week. We know this, don't we? So...
Carlo Ancelotti and his eyebrow.
All the Arsenal fans are going to be up now. Cramp was thinking he thought they'd win at the Emirates last week and that they'll get done at the Bernabeu. So, but
Crab is a wise man.
If he can take free kicks like this, that's just a joke. That's just a joke. Bellingham's jumping. Don't bother. It's nowhere near you. Don't even bother jumping, Jude. That's a sensational free kick. Sorry for everybody who's not watching the game, but do check out the Declan Rice free kicks if you have the opportunity later on, because that is postage stamp, absolute postage stamp. A couple of games more to cover, and then we'll bring the tables, etc. up, and we do still have the ending to come, the Scottish Premier League, as our conclusion. But Aston Villa beat Nottingham Forest 2-1, 2 early goals for Villa in the first 15 minutes. they're starting to come a little bit strong now. They've added to kind of the squad. They've still got Champions League as well. Heather says, "Is it on Prime?" It is on Prime, Heather. It is. It is on Prime. Hence why mine I think is a bit slow because I'm streaming. So it's
So I'm on Prime, which is why I've got it quicker probably.
Yeah, it's on my my internet delay. But so yeah, Aston Villa, and they're still very much. Grimmy, are Champions League football again for Aston Villa next season? Real possibility?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're within 2 points at this point, you have to say you're in with a shout. I don't know what their running's like, but I would hesitate to say they're the favourites because they've still got PSG in the Champions League, and then they've got the semi-final of the FA Cup. So, they might be a little bit more stretched out than maybe other teams around them. But, I mean, they've got Southampton next, so that's 3 points. No offense, Southampton. But then after that, it gets tricky for them because they've got Newcastle, City, Fulham, Bournemouth, Spurs, and then United. So that is a bit of a tough end to the season. Maybe the last 2 games, but the next 4, I would say, are going to be tough for them. But if they somehow get wins in the next 2 league matches, then they're prime position because it's Newcastle and City next. So that's taking points off the people directly in competition with. So yeah, every chance that they can. Now, if Rashford could go and score a hat-trick against City, that'd be great.
That would be beautiful, wouldn't it? That would be beautiful.
Add an extra couple of million onto that valuation for us, son. Let's get that in there, shall we?
This is what we want, and he might knock Arsenal out of the Champions League if they get through to the next round as well. Because I think it's Villa Arsenal, isn't it? And the next, which should be a phenomenal. I mean,
Villa have to get past PSG though, and they're pretty.
Yeah, it's still, and Arsenal still got to get through this yet, so it's too early for any of that. But it's nice to dream of these things. Games ahead. Grimmy and I have to do this because there's
nothing else to dream of. This Europa League.
This is true. Europa, Lyon on Thursday. Dreams can happen. We might sneak a backdoor entrance into the old into the Champions League. We'll take whatever we can at the moment. We'll take whatever we can. But the obviously Villa beat Nottingham Forest, who I don't know what you thought, Grimmy, would last week. So I thought they looked leggy against United. I don't know whether it was because that FA Cup guy went to the extra time. I know they defended well. They just looked a little bit leggier as the game went on. And I didn't watch the Villa game, but I don't know whether some of that was, it's not a third. There's not a third that's gone in here.
Marino.
This is going to be one of their big European nights, isn't it?
I think this is probably their biggest European night.
Well, I remember Thierry Henry doing it to Madrid and that Inter Milan one there years ago. But I mean, this stage of the competition.
Yeah.
Just watching it through Mourinho. Oh, it's a quick. Oh, what is going on?
Where's Crab? I need a feed on Crab. I need to know how ballistic he's going right now.
I think knowing Crab, I think he'll be pretty calm, thinking, "Oh no, this is just going to feel worse if we throw it away next week." That will be what Crab's thinking right now. I think he'll be pleasantly surprised, but I don't think he'll be counting too many chickens just yet. He's too cool, that man. Too cool to lose his cool this early. He knows there's a big time to come. That's incredible. Arsenal 3, Real Madrid, everybody at the moment.
It's a tidy finish as well, to be fair.
It is a tidy finish, but Nottingham Forest are still third. They're still well in the battle. Things are still looking good for them, and you'd expect them that they'd kind of be in there. We'll have a word, Grimmy, on it because when I saw the fixtures this weekend,
I'd rather talk about Liverpool at the minute. That's how bad it is.
That's clearly a talking point. No, don't even have to consider that there won't be nothing going on in that game. But it wasn't the greatest game of football I can say that I've enjoyed on a Sunday evening. And it wasn't as bad as some have gone recently, but it's because it was boring.
Yeah. So on the first City derby, when Diallo did Diallo things, up until that Diallo point, I said this is probably the worst City derby I've ever watched. Quality-wise, awful. I was wrong. This is probably going to be the worst one we see for quite some time, I think. Because even when we got battered by City, or we were battering City back in the day, those good old days, like there was still good football to watch. Now, neither of us are doing anything, and we're just sort of passing the ball around and hoping. Yeah. Well, I fell asleep for 20 minutes of the first half. That tells you how bad it was. So, and I don't fall asleep in big games, quote unquote. So, like it was so bad. But we didn't lose, Sam. We didn't lose.
Well, yeah, we didn't. The lack of intensity was just as you said, like just watching it. Normally in the second half, even when it's 0-0 or it's tight and stuff, you've still got that level of kind of excitement within you because you're like, well, we might be able to get this, we might be able to win the derby. It was just like there's nothing going on. It was just, I mean, it was just they were both happy with it. They were both the thing that's so frustrating at the minute is like the amount of situations that we did kind of get into. I'm just thinking if we just had some quality around Bruno Fernandes, that would be brilliant because some of the stuff he was doing was getting us in those positions. You're just like, and then the final pass from Garnacho would be awful, or someone would like Dorgu didn't have a particularly good game and would put in some naff crosses, or it kept full. It seems to be all our chances fall to our wing backs, and Dallo and Dorgu are not natural born finishers. We've got a striker in there who's just might as well not be there. But then the thing I found afterwards a little bit was just frustrating because obviously there was the kind of, it seems to be every time there's a Man United game at the minute, there's a big Gary Neville narrative where he's got to sort of, make it a bigger thing about this, that and the other. And United get pelters, and rightly so for a lot of this season. But Man City didn't come to try and beat us either. Everyone's telling us that we're crap. A lot of us, we are. But so why didn't they step it up and sort of, with what they had available to beat us? They looked tepid. That's the thing that surprised me, how tepid they looked. Like, they're supposed to be fighting for top four, and they looked happy with a point. Like, apart from Marmouche, I wasn't really worried about any of them.
No, I it's just been one of those seasons, I think, for City. I can't really put my finger on it. I think they just want to get this season over and done with as much as anybody and get into the summer and spend £500 million on their new squad and go win the title again next year, probably. But yeah, there was a serious lack of quality all over the pitch. And the only two I felt like could do something were Mamouche and Bruno. And that was it. I didn't feel like anyone else was going to do it. I felt like every time the ball went to Garnacho, he was going to give it away or he was going to blaze it over the bar. And it's got to that point now with Garnacho that if we sold him in the summer, I don't know if I would be as upset about it as I would have been at the start of the season. I think he's not learning from his mistakes. Like, he's not learning from every time he cuts inside, he's gonna try and curl it into the top corner, and he never makes a pass. He never, like, if he was hitting them on target, I wouldn't be bothered. But he blazes them over the bar 9 times out of 10, and he's going for the wonder strike every time. Often. Yeah, and I don't think he's going to learn.
No, because you get one or two finishes from him. You get the one that blazes high and wide that he tries to hit that top corner, or you get the dribbly one that he hits towards near post that just rolls into the keeper's arms. There's no variation of the two, and I think the problem is that I think why he's kind of a bit flattering to deceive is that actually his first touch is very good, and sometimes his second touch, getting the ball out of his body, is quite good. There was a couple, like I think, because when we were switching play, he brought the ball down really well, and then sort of comes, and then you see him one-on-one with a defender, but he gets himself into positions where his decision making is just bizarre. It's just, and as you said, Grimmy, it's not learning. You don't see that kind of improvement in him, and a player like that, you can't rely on. You can't rely the fact that he might make 1 out of 5 passes. Yeah. You need someone that's going to be consistent, and that makes it difficult when you then got someone like Højlund who's way out of form, struggling anyway. Doesn't know when the ball's coming in or where it's going to come to because Garnacho is so unpredictable. And maybe that's adding to some of the problem is the unpredictability of players around him. Yeah. And then obviously you've got like a high intelligence, high quality player in Bruno who's finding things. And it's just like, they don't seem to be able to sort of then build it up. Now and again, you'll get a nice little play, and then when you watch it afterwards, 80% of it is Bruno Fernandes and stuff he's doing that creates things for other people around him. And as you said, like massively missing Amad Diallo, and that's crazy how much he's burst in, what effect he was having. Because if you had half of those chances that Garnacho's had in previous weeks on the other side when Diallo was here, we'd probably have about another 3-4 points because Diallo's, has been pretty deadly.
But he'd also know when to feed it to Højlund and get the ball, or whoever was in the box. He'd know when to play it, and that's the biggest criticism I have of Garnacho is he just doesn't know when to pass the ball. And he's played long enough now. I think it's like 2 years in the squad that he should know by now. And if he's not learning that now, I don't know when it's going to. Like, I'm happy to be proven wrong. Like, I want him to become a good player for us.
Yeah.
But in the situation we're in, we can't afford to keep a youth player or young player in this scenario where we've got no money. We need to sell players. If he's one of the assets we can get a decent amount for, I'd rather get rid of him now and then be able to keep hold of, say, Menu and build with Menu and Bruno in the midfield and go from there, basically. But what do I know?
This is it. It's a tough one because I think when Chelsea were coming in January, I think I was just at that ilk, was just like, we can't let any more wingers go. Like at that point, like, Anthony fine, Rashford had gone, you've got, and that was before Amad's injury. And at that point, we were like, well, we're only one injury away from trouble. And then the injury happened. And then Garnacho is our only fit winger, in reality.
I'd rather have Dwight McNeil on the left-hand side now. Like, it's getting to that point. Like,
the system doesn't suit him either.
No.
The system doesn't suit him because he wants to be wider. He doesn't want to be kind of as this sort of inside 10. It doesn't. So it may well be a case of, as you're right, he might be one that I think will be another case of he'll go and probably flourish a little bit somewhere else.
100%.
He's a talented player, but
he could go to Italy or Spain and do fantastically.
I think that's the move for him. I know Chelsea are interested, but I just could see him being another inconsistent Chelsea winger where you'll get moments of greatness and then you'll get moments of, nothing. And then they'll put somebody else in for 5-10 games and you won't see him. Like, how many people have gone to Chelsea? I'm looking at like Pedro. I was absolutely in love with Pedro Neto last season or two and barely seen him this season at Chelsea. And when he has played, hasn't been effective. I think it would be a bit like that, but... yeah, it wasn't a good game, was it? It wasn't the most exciting game. But as you said, Grimmy,
it's over. That was the happiest thing about it.
It's over, and we move on to Thursday night, so Europa night. So we look forward to that again. We'll see what that brings. I haven't got the stuff up ready, so I'm just going to find it here so I can bring up the table and the other games that we haven't covered. But I need to find out where I saved it. That's the first thing. And then I need it to come up on screen. So it's coming.
Can we just jump straight to the Scottish Prem? Because I feel like that's the most anticipated segment of this entire show at this point.
This is it.
Rebecca's like sitting there going, I will have my time. I will get there.
This is it. There's so many pages there. I'm worried we're going all the way down to Scottish Division 2. I don't know how much we've got covered here in Scotland, but we will finish off the Premier League very, very briefly. Let me get rid of the old in the corner. We've got our little logo because that just crosses off the points in the corner, so we can see that yes, Liverpool do still have a big lead, unfortunately.
Put it back on, then we can't see them.
We'll just do like PSG, like we did with France, and just cut them off the top of the table. It doesn't actually count. So elsewhere, you had Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace with a good win over Brighton. That was a really good 2-1 victory for them. Doing really well. I think everybody, if you're an FPL person, everyone's gone Palace crazy in their FPL team because they've got 2 double game weeks coming up. So everybody's in love with Crystal Palace players. Eze was brilliant again at the weekend. He's really coming into form at the moment. West Ham 2, Bournemouth 2. Yes, there was a Desmond at West Ham against Bournemouth. So Bournemouth are still sticking around. It's been a difficult patch, I think, but they've done really well with the fact they had so many injuries, I think, and it's kind of catching up maybe a little bit. But they're still not miles off. And see how the rest of the season pans out for them. There was another exciting 0-0 at Brentford. Brentford 0, Chelsea 0. So again, not much to talk about there. And that was it. The only team we didn't mention, obviously Tottenham won, but they were against Southampton. So, even Tottenham, even Spurs, even Spurs got a victory in that case. And Graham here, bottom 3 combined, goal difference of minus 150. That's not great. I'm going to be honest with you. That's kind of not great at all. It's not really what you are looking for. And never any love from Graham as the Charlton fan for Palace. No Palace love. Oh, we like Palace. We've got no issues with Palace. But yeah, there we are. There's the Premier League. So Liverpool still top, Arsenal still second, Nottingham Forest still third. Chelsea, it surprises me Chelsea is still that high. It really does. Every time I sort of look at a result, they don't win games. But according to that form table, they have done. So they are in fourth. Newcastle, one of the informed sides in the league. I think the good thing for Newcastle is they've kept it going, haven't they, after the League Cup? There's been no drop-off so far. So they're still in a really strong position. Manchester City still in sixth. Aston Villa on a great tear up in seventh, and then Fulham in eighth, with Brighton now dropping off a little bit after their good run. And obviously, as we said at the bottom, Ipswich pretty much down. Leicester pretty much down. Southampton officially down now. So that is your bottom 3 and will be the bottom 3 until the end of the season. I think we are pretty sure. So that's it. There's nothing else to talk about I can think about. Is there any other games in any other leagues?
That, folks.
Yeah, I think
I didn't sit here and write all of this out for nothing.
Just handwriting practice.
Oh, yes, you did.
It was their handwriting practice. Go on then, Rebecca. Tell us what's been going on north of the border in the Scottish. Is it the Premiership or the Premier League they call it now up there?
Scottish Premiership.
Scottish Premiership.
In which there has been an announcement where they're trying to change how many teams are in the Scottish Prem for the upcoming seasons. So they did want to go from 12 to 10, which none of the teams have said that they will agree.
Funnily enough, anybody in the Premiership went, nah, we don't really want to
Top
keep
fancy
going.
that one.
No.
Yeah. In which it would have been St Johnstone and Dundee, who would have been the 2 that got relegated straight away. So that is a no from me as well. So they're now looking at whether they can make it a bigger league to try and cut out the fact that they play each other 4 times a season, and there's just a lot with it. So that's been going on, but there was a full fixture. So it was defeat for Celtic against bottom of the table St Johnstone, seeing them having to wait until after the split to be able to be crowned champions and receive the trophy, because they are 2 wins away from the league. It was a huge performance from St Johnstone, and goalkeeper Andy Fisher was absolutely incredible, especially towards the end when it was just a case of he was throwing everything he could at trying to keep the clean sheet. There was also the ball boys were told not to give the ball back to any of the players. They were told to stay sat down just to make the game so they could take their time. So the players had to go and get the ball just to try and waste as much time as possible to keep St Johnstone in the lead and make sure that Celtic couldn't do anything. Rangers,
that's the opposite of their job, isn't it?
Yeah.
the no
but it was the groundsman and everyone were just telling them you just stay sat there, do not move. Rangers also suffered a defeat to third place Hibernian, with goals coming from Dylan Levitt and Martin Boyle, seeing them further secure their spot in the top 6 ahead of the split. Hearts narrowly missed out on securing their place in the top 6 with a 1-0 defeat to Dundee United.
How's Big Shanks getting on, Rebecca? Actually, I have a question. How is Big Shanks doing this season? Not great.
He's there.
He exists.
I think it was part of when Hearts beat Dundee 6-0. Was it Hearts that beat them 6-0? They had 2 consecutive back-to-back 6-0s, I think it was.
For those new viewers, Big Shanks is who referred Lawrence Shankland, who last season was absolutely banging them in, and this season it's not quite been the same.
It's been a bit of an up and down season for Hearts, but they are there and thereabouts with the top 6. There was a bit of VAR controversy over the weekend in the Scottish Prem, as every league has. So James Wilson was sent off for Hearts in the 38th minute, and then Sam Dolby netting the goal for Dundee United in the 67th minute. Aberdeen secured a 1-0 win over a struggling Ross County side, with Shaden Morris securing the goal in the 33rd minute, seeing them take all 3 points. Ross County do now find themselves just 1 point ahead of Dundee in the relegation playoff spot, so it's getting quite tight down at the bottom. Motherwell also missed out on going into the top 6 after suffering a 2-0 defeat to St Mirren, who have kept their top 6 hopes alive with Fraser Murray and Joe Wright on the score sheet. And then there was another sending off within that match. Well, there was a sending off within that match, so there was 2 over the weekend, and that was for Balmer. He got sent off in the 26th minute. And now, the one that I have been waiting to talk about this whole time, Dundee! It was a huge win for Dundee. They won 2-0, so of course I was very happy. They made one change to the side after the heartbreaking defeat to Rangers, in which they were 2-0 up, 3-1 up, and got beat 4-3.
Oh,
never experienced a match like it. It was horrendous. They just fell apart. So to see them back to winning ways is always good. But yeah, we did have Clark Robertson making a return, which saw Aaron Donnelly drop into the bench. There was no Ryan Astley in the squad, which I was very, very sad about. But they did cushion the blow because we saw Finlay Robertson within the starting 11. Simon Murray doing what Simon Murray does best. He netted both of the goals for Dundee, and that sees him become the joint leading goal scorer in the Scottish Prem. So he's tied with a Celtic player. So to say Dundee haven't been in the greatest form this season, he has been the one that they've relied on massively. And I think he's like one of the highest scoring players since like last season or something. There's like a stat which is quite good in it, like in his favour. So it does mean that they now move to being 1 point behind Ross County, ahead of the split, which still don't understand, but the Scottish Prem do what they want at this point, so they just split the league in half and go with it. So yeah, it was a great performance from the team, a great defensive setup. Changed his name.
Ashley.
Ashley. Hey up, Ashley.
Hey up, Ashley.
It was a great defensive setup, and it was great to see Seb Palmer-Holden and Billy make a return from injury. It is a tough match on Sunday for Dundee. They are against Hibs, who are quite high-flying in the league, but hopefully they can finish off this part of the season well and then head into the split above Ross County and out of the dreaded bottom 2, because I think it's bottom goes straight down. Second bottom is part of a relegation playoff, which I cannot go through the stress of. So please, Dundee, just win. And that's your Scottish Prem roundup.
Was that it?
That's it, yeah.
It's 2 pages long.
I didn't write the script.
Well done, Becca. Thorough review of the Scottish League. Graham says he never understood the split. I don't. As you say, I don't. If they want to have a bigger league without, surely there's a way of, because there's 3 divisions below the Prem, so that's a total of 42 teams. Surely you could have 3 divisions of even like 16. Call some of the Highland and the Lowland leagues up to form. There must be a way. Like I imagine it's probably, as we get in the English leagues, is the Premier League big boys don't want any mucking around. They like the way it is, and they don't want it to change probably. But. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Well, Camavinga's been sent off for Real Madrid as well, so they're having a. So he won't.
I did see that, but I didn't want to interrupt Rebecca's monologue.
No, this is it. Yeah, Camavinga doesn't fit into any Dundee match reports.
She did mention a red card, and I was like, "Well, this could be relevant, but I'm not gonna."
No, we'll let it go through. So there we are, the joys of the Scottish Premier League. We've come to the end of our show. What a lovely time we've all had together, talking about everything Premier League, talking about Champions League, talking about Scottish Premier League. There's plenty going on. And if you want to find more stuff that's going on, particularly with Rebecca, with Scottish match reports, with Formula One, with ice hockey, where can everybody find you, Rebecca?
You can find me at _Rebecca_shot_. Don't do the point anymore because last time I did, I pointed to nothing. And that is on Twitter and TikTok. You can find my Her Game 2 content at Her Game 2 ASFC and Her Game 2 Ice Hockey. You can find my F1 content with the amazing Jen, who is on the Thursday show, and that is Girls in the Grandstand, in which we have a new podcast out now, which is a wrap-up of the Grand Prix over the weekend, in which we have made our own format to try and make F1 more exciting, which includes having 80 cars going around Monaco.
Jesus Christ.
80, good God.
You would literally have a traffic jam.
Yeah. But we'll make the cars a bit smaller and turn them into bumper cars.
That's
but they're not going as fast.
Make the car smaller and it'll work.
Go-karts, yeah. Monaco go-karts, that's what it needs, you see. Just smaller.
That's how exciting the race was, that's what we ended up talking about.
This is it. And Shaw says, "Don't forget the Tiddlywinks content, Sam." Apparently, there we go. Is there Tiddlywinks podcast coming out, Rebecca? I don't know. Certainly not. And absolutely Tiddlywinks, I can tell you, is not in the not currently in the pipeline of things that we're planning to do.
It took me enough to convince you to let me do Scottish Prem. I don't think we'd get anything like that yet.
Give it another 2 years, we might get there.
Tiddlywinks Manchester derby, probably about similar, I would imagine, in terms of excitement. But if you want more excitement, then Grimmy's your man. And where can everybody find more of you?
We've got my gaming channel, which is linked below. Not linked below, mentioned below. Saint Grimmy. That's all my video game stuff at the minute. Just done a video on the Switch 2 reveal and talking all about that information and all the stuff that's coming out from that. And then there's my wrestling channel that I'm working on with a friend of ours, Sam Bragster, called Taking the Pin. We're getting geared up for we're getting geared up for WrestleMania weekend. So we've got some more videos coming out this week. And then we've got a big predictions video coming out next week as well. So if you want to see more on wrestling from me, who is a relatively new wrestling fan, and then Braggs, who's actually training to be a wrestler, then
is he?
Yeah, he's doing wrestling training. Which, to be fair, I can see him being quite a good heel. I can see him being quite a good bad guy, and winding a lot of people up the wrong way, because he does it on clubs night whenever we play clubs on FC. So, yeah. I imagine he'd be quite good at it. Not that I said that out loud, or should ever that be reported back to him, that he would be good at something. He
would be a successful wrestlers. So there we go. Next Royal Rumble, Bragster. I want to see.
Number 30, Bragster comes out and wins it all. There we go. But yeah, those are the two main places you can find me. And Sam, where can we find you?
Where can you find me? Well, you can find me. I do have a YouTube channel as well. I'm doing some championship content, some EFL content, which is Sam Absolute EFL. At the minute, I'm putting a lot of work behind the scenes for some season. I'm going to do some team season reviews. I'm going to go team by team. It's going to be quite in depth. So it's taken me quite some time. But the main place you can find me on look at this, the Absolute Football Podcast. It's a t-shirt with the logos and such on it. We are starting to investigate merch. We're investigating it. And these are samples. So nothing's available. We don't know what we're doing with it yet, but it's just like, yeah. The good news is I've worn it and none of these have fallen off. So start as a tick in the box.
I'm going to need a mug with your face on it, Sam. That's all I need. Don't give me anything else.
In your cupboard, what have you done with the 5 I gave you?
I mean, it's probably best I don't say that on podcast.
They've gone during Manchester United games this season. Probably hurled against
Fergie tea stains on the roof.
Fergie tea stains in my face, smashed to bits all over your carpet. Yeah. Lovely. Lovely. So that is where you can find me. And of course, you need to find, if you haven't found, What Are You Doing? The Absolute Football Podcast. We are the best new content creator from the Football Content Awards. And we are 3 days a week. We are on Tuesdays at 8:30, the Absolutely Premier League. On Wednesday, it is #Team Chaos, Absolutely Women's Football. And on Thursday, Absolutely Lower League. Yes, it is, Shah. And the Rowdy Rabble, as the EFL and National Leagues are coming to conclusion. So it's a pretty exciting time of the season. We're going to be chucking loads of content at you, coming through with some special stuff coming up at the end of the season as well. You can find us on Twitter at Absolute Ball Pod, YouTube and Twitch Absolute Football Podcast, on TikTok Absolute Football Pod, Instagram Absolute Football Podcast _ Blue Sky Absolute Football, and on Facebook the Absolute Football Podcast. It's everywhere. It's everywhere you look, coming at you through so many different mediums. Graham needs a t-shirt and a mug. As soon as stuff's available, Graham, do not worry. We will let you know. But it's probably going to take a little bit of time to get stuff up and running, but hopefully soon. And it'd be lovely to see our team, team faces, team sayings on a t-shirt. Wouldn't that be nice? It'd be lovely. Rebecca with a Dundee quote of some kind. You need a Rick Ashley quote, surely. I think with Ryan Ashley on there. I think that needs to be the one for you.
I think Ant had argued that it should be the one about me saying that all you hear are crows in Accrington.
All you hear is crows in Accrington. There we go. Wow, and all we've heard tonight is Declan Rice hitting postage stamps for free kicks in the Champions League. So if you haven't checked that out, do go and watch those goals, because that is both phenomenal. But you're phenomenal. Have a fantastic week. Enjoy your football. Don't forget to catch the rest of the shows. And we will see you on the next one. Ciao for now. Bye-bye.